Take a look at he signs by autopen. Who was signing all this stuff by autopen? Who would think you sign important documents by autopen? You know, these are major documents you're signing. You're proud to sign them. You have your signature on something. In 300 years, they say, oh, look, can you imagine? Everything was signed by autopen, almost everything. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. So should have never happened.
Well, good morning, Marky. Happy to be back here. An autopen is a device that replicates someone's signature. It's something that celebrities often use to sign autographs for fans, and it provides an identical signature every single time, like almost a stamp. It's common knowledge that presidents use the device too. Harry Truman, believed to be the first U.S. president to do so almost 100 years ago. But the White House doesn't exactly broadcast that they're doing it for obvious reasons. The issue here, according to President Trump, is how much his predecessor was allegedly relying on it. And overnight, the president upping the ante, posting that the pardons signed by President Biden are, quote, hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect, because of the fact that they were done by autopen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them. He continues those on the Unselect Committee, referring to the House committee that investigated January 6th, should, quote, fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is that they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without their knowledge or consent. This claim originated from the Heritage Foundation's oversight project. They highlighted signatures from pardons that the president signed, including those for Anthony Fauci, Mark Milley, and the January 6th committee. They allege that the signatures are identical, suggesting the use of an autopen. They contrasted those signatures with the one announcing Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 presidential race, which they say is noticeably different. The president suggested on Truth Social, quote, the person who was the real president during the Biden years was the person who controlled the autopen. Here's what President Trump first said about the claim on Friday.
Crooked Joe Biden got us into a real mess with Russia and everything else he did, frankly, but he didn't know about it. And he, generally speaking, signed it with autopen. So how would he know? That autopen is a big deal. 99% of the time I say do it, but they come up and I sign it. But you don't use autopen. It's, number one, it's disrespectful to the office.
Marky, so far, no response from President Biden or anyone who worked in the Biden White House. But again, this is something that presidents do use and have used for decades. President George W. Bush's Justice Department actually made a legal argument that an autopen signature is just as valid as the president's handwritten signature when it comes to signing bills.
President Trump, who says that all pardons issued by former President Joe Biden are void. Indeed, just a few short hours ago, Trump took to social media accusing his Democratic predecessor of using an autopen to sign acts of clemency while in office, rather than doing so by hand, thus declaring Biden's pardons not valid. Additionally, Trump claimed without evidence that Biden failed to give consent for preemptive pardons issued to the 9 House Select Committee members that investigated the January 6th insurrection, along with many others granted clemency on the former president's last full day in office on January 19th. So, John Hyman, a few things need to be said here plainly. There's no authority that gives Donald Trump the ability to overturn his predecessor's pardons. The autopen argument seems nonsensical, but this is clearly a warning in some way, particularly at those who on the January 6th committee, those who investigated the conduct of Trump and his allies, saying, and I'll just read from his Truth Social post, they should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. And at minimum, John, it feels like another moment where Trump might be daring the courts, daring the judiciary. If he tries to see this through, it'll get appealed, and that appeal will be appealed, and eventually some court is going to have to either say yes or no, and we'll see what the administration, if they agree to abide by it.
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void, because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an autopen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, just one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee. They gave, think of it, they gave pardons with an autopen. I don't think Biden knew anything about it. And what they did is they deleted and destroyed all of the information that took them over a year to get.